Today we're going to service the transmission. Car's jacked up. We're going to take all the under tray shields off. All the under tray pans are off, and now with a 10mm hex we're going to remove the drain plug and drain the transmission oil. So our transmission oil is draining. One key thing to note here is that you should have a pretty big pan, because once it starts going it starts splashing quite a bit, so make sure you put a lot of cover or have a big pan to catch everything. The oil has drained. We're just going to replace the drain plug, and then we're going to proceed to removing the transmission pan for further drain, remove all mechatronic and the rest of the seals. Prior to that, little bracket needs to come off, a couple of screws there, and then we'll do the pan. So we remove this exhaust bracket because we'll need to be removing this transmission support bracket as well. So that's gone, and then we're going to be removing all 24 of the transmission pan screws and dropping the transmission pan. So the pan is slowly being removed. It has to be removed straight down to make sure that the O-ring on the little spout in the pan, in the filter, comes out with it. And then also make sure that you have the oil pan underneath to catch all the drips. There's a lot of oil drips that are coming still down. This is how the transmission looks. This is the mechatronic. So we're going to be removing this piece as well in order to change all the seals on it. And then there is about 12 screws there. They're quite similar to what's holding the mechatronic together. But one thing to note is they're basically flatter bolts instead of the more domed ones like this. So this is a domed one here. We don't want to take those. We want to basically be removing the flatter ones, and that will allow us to take the whole mechatronic assembly off. So we're preparing to support the transmission in order to remove this whole transmission bracket. This transmission bracket is at the back of the transmission where the transmission mounts are at. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to disconnect the transmission mount bolts. These are 13mm bolts, and then we're planning to put a jack stand here, and it's going to support it based on this bracket that's still connected to a transmission. So this is still connected to a transmission here. I'm going to put a piece of wood and a jack stand. I'm going to lift up the car from the front a little bit, support it on this, so it just supports it just enough, but not supporting the full weight. And then we are going to disconnect these two bolts on one side, and then 2 bolts on another side. So we have a jack stand with a couple of 2x4s underneath this transmission support, just right inside that bracket. Let's see if I can get a better light here. Right in there, right supporting on that bracket. So we're going to be removing the one that's the big one here. This one, I'm going to remove that one. So 2 bolts here for the transmission mounts, and then 2 on the side, and that shall do it. So the bolts are off, and this is how the bracket comes out. Now the reason we did that is so it gives us access to that connector, that one over there, so we can undo it. That's the electrical connector for the transmission, and then we're also going to be pulling that sleeve, the black plastic sleeve, to replace that. We're trying to take the mechatronic sleeve out now, that plastic sleeve there. This is why I removed these transmission support bracket and transmission mounts to gain good access to it, to remove it, as well as to put the new one back in. Prior to removing, what we need to do, we need to unclip this white clip. So there is a little clip here, you just press it and then slide it down like that, and that will allow us to pull on the mechatronic sleeve on this back one there. So we'll try to pick it with a screwdriver first a little bit. We have a new one to replace this one, so if we damage this a little bit, it's not a big deal. Just to dislodge it, and then we can pull it with our hands. Yep, there it's coming. So we took the mechatronic sleeve out. There it is, black one, and that's how the connector looks like, and that's part of the whole mechatronic. So we're going to work on removing the bolts, the 12 bolts on the mechatronic. They're T40s as opposed to T27s for the small ones, and then we'll show you how the mechatronic comes down. As you're going to start removing the bolts, you're going to have this little rain shower of oil, so just be careful, make sure that you have the pan underneath, because there's still extra oil that comes out. Another thing to consider too is with this mechatronic job, transmission is going to take a little bit more than 5.5–6 liters of fluid, so make sure that you purchase extra. The mechatronic is down, and we're going to be replacing these 4 tubes. They're about $12, $15 each, and then that sleeve, the mechatronic sleeve as well, or the adapter, whatever it's called. It's very easy to remove that one, you just pop it out. And these little tubes, they're kind of inserted there, so you can use a pick or needle nose pliers and remove them that way. We've got new ones to insert there as well. 2 of them are the same, and the other 2 are different. They're just different length. There we go. Just a little bit of a review of the old seal. So this is a mechatronic adapter. You can see how old is very very worn. These rubber seals are almost pushed in here in the middle, and the new one is nice and clean. So if any little crack or when these seals get worn, this is what contributes to a transmission failure as well. So we're gonna replace with a new one, but this is kind of interesting to compare the old and new. These are the old tubes. We replaced them with the new ones, but you can see how they are deformed a little bit on the outside, and they also shrink. So the new ones are kind of flush with the mating surface. Or sorry, the old ones are flush with the mating surface, and the new ones will stick out by a couple of millimeters. We'll look at it next. So here we have the adapter back in place, and this is the 4 little sleeves. You can see how they stick out a little bit from their places to the mating surface, but that's normal. So we're gonna go and put the mechatronic unit back on, and then after that we'll fit the new sleeve in that place. That's for the electrical connector, and button it all up, fill it with oil and whatnot, and check the level, make sure it's all running well. So mechatronic is all bolted up. There's 10 large bolts here, and then 3 here on the plastic side they're short. All the ones that go on the metal surface there, they're long, and these three are short ones. Now we're gonna proceed to fitting the electrical sleeve. Just to show this a little bit clearly, there's a couple of notches here on the edge here where my finger is. So there's two of them, 1 and 2, this one and then this one. So it's important to observe their orientation because it's not going to go any other way, and it's not going to lock in place. So we put a little bit of oil on the rubber seals, and we're going to insert that into the electrical connector. We fitted the electrical sleeve, and then the white lock tab goes up and locks it in place like that. Just make sure you're careful with it not to break it. So we have a electrical connector plugged back in. The pan is fitted and bolts are all cross torqued. And now we're gonna work on putting the transmission mounts back and the transmission support bracket and removing the jack stand. So we've got the motive power filler full with 6.5 liters of ZF 6 fluid for the transmission. We're going to use shop air to fill it up and pressurize it, and have a little L-shaped spout that we're going to insert into the transmission input or fill hole, and we're going to fill it up.